Hi, I'm Evan Dumas, the head of emerging technologies for Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa at Checkpoint. Today I'm going to talk about a product we call VSec, or Virtual Security, and how we use it to secure customers on the Microsoft Azure platform. Let's get started. Customers are taking a journey to the cloud, and they're doing this for a lot of reasons and at different times. Some of the reasons could be that they're trying to save money in CapEx or upfront expenditures. They do this by buying infrastructure as a service. They may be also looking to save in operating expenses, and they do this by buying only what they need as a service. And lastly, I think they're looking for this idea of fast and easy deployment, as well as scalability when needed. When you move to the cloud, this also brings some unique challenges. So let's take a look at the top ones. Morgan Stanley's CIO Cloud Survey actually shows that control is the #1 concern, followed closely by security. And you'll also see the concepts of ownership, compliance, and reliability here. So I think it's safe to say whatever your concerns are, that all customers feel there are some trade-offs when you move to the cloud. Specifically, you have to give up things like control, security, and privacy when you move to the cloud in exchange for things like scale, easy provisioning, and availability. So that's sort of the bad news. But I'd like to give you some good news. Specifically, I wanted to give you our position on this. And that is that we think you can have your cloud and secure it too. And that's why we built VSec as a product. Our position on this is what we call multi-layered security. So we believe in a multi-layer security strategy, and it's vital to preventing malware infections. This multi-layer strategy separates malware into known and unknown and uses layers to protect against both. In the known space, IPS or intrusion protection, antivirus or AV, and anti-bot or AB use signatures to catch malware that is known to the world. In the unknown arena, to protect against unknown and zero-day threats, we have a two-stage emulation strategy that identifies and blocks exploits at the CPU level and vulnerabilities at the operating system level. To cap this strategy and complete the protection, extraction reconstructs documents to ensure they are malware-free. So let's take a slightly deeper look at this strategy. When we say that we advocate multi-layer, what I mean by that is multiple layers of technology. And as you can see on your screen, on the top layer is the firewall, application control, URL filtering, as well as something like identity awareness. All of these are considered baseline requirements just to have a firewall. If you add to that intrusion protection or IPS, that's what's called a next-gen firewall. And many of you may have something like this in your office. You'll notice that we advocate much more than this, including antivirus, sandboxing, and anti-bot technologies, and they all have a place in a multi-layer strategy. On the top 3 layers, you can see that this is what's focused on known, and those are primarily signatures that are databases of known malware. They do a few other things, but that's their primary focus, is catching things we know about. If we don't recognize something, that would make it unknown, or you hear the term 0-day. That's what the sandbox is for. And the job of the sandbox is to catch something that's unknown, figure out what it is, define it, and then make it known again so the top layers of this strategy can do their job again. In the case that something's already in your network or came in through a channel that you don't control, the idea of anti-bot will prevent outbound communications to command and control, as well as the exfiltration of data. To give you an example of this, ransomware is known as a 3-stage attack. The first stage would be a dropper. It would come through your network. And the idea is if you know what it is, you would block it with the top 3 layers. If you don't, you would try to define it with the sandbox and be able to stop it in that way. If the first stage makes it through, the second stage is to reach out to its command and control to get a private key, and then the third stage of the attack would be to encrypt your files. So if you have a next-gen firewall, which is the first 2 layers on the screen, you wouldn't be able to stop it from getting in with the sandbox, and you wouldn't be able to stop it getting out with anti-bot. In the last 6 months, ransomware has gotten even more interesting, and now it's a two-stage attack. What that means is it comes pre-packaged with a private key. And in that case, the only way to stop it is by using sandboxing on the way in. So you can see why we advocate a multi-layer strategy much beyond a next-gen firewall. Now, the one thing we don't do in the gateway itself is sandboxing. So what we do is the gateway will collect the file and send it off to the sandbox. In this case, it's called the Sandblast Cloud. What we'll do there is we will check that file to make sure that whether it's malicious or benign, and we will return a verdict back to the gateway so that you can either block or allow inline in real time. To take this information and make it useful, we then also pass it to our intelligence network, which is called the threat cloud. And then this would deploy to all gateways globally in real time so that the top 3 layers here can start blocking again based on that information. What this means is that if someone gets attacked in the US, then people in Singapore will be protected because we've distributed that information in real time to all of your gateways. We also offer a private cloud option for our customers that don't like public cloud or they have other needs around the privatization of things. And for our most sensitive customers, we also offer our intelligence network as a private threat cloud. We do this so that you have flexibility and you get to choose how to deploy based on your needs. And I would look at sandboxing as a service, and that means that you can deploy this hybrid. You can have some of it public, some of it private. You can use one or the other or both. And the overall goal of this strategy is obviously so that whatever passes through your network is clean when it comes out the other side. The last note on this strategy is that we believe it's the most cost-effective way to get close to 100% security. What I mean by that is if you focus your attention on the funnel on the left-hand side in multicolors, the idea of all these layers is that they work together. So for instance, 100% of the traffic might make it to the firewall, and then about 75% of the traffic would make it to IPS, 50% to the antivirus, and with our goal of reducing the amount of traffic that makes it to the sandbox to about 15 to 25%. And the reason we want to do that is that sandboxing is the most expensive thing per unit cost you can do in security outside of incident response. So with a fully integrated system, we can then reduce the total cost of this protection setup by using the multiple layers in concert. And that's the last reason why we advocate multi-layer. Now, when you talk about technology and how you deploy that technology, we know that most companies are multi-vendor. They're also probably going to be multi-cloud. And what that means is you've probably built or bought some private cloud. You probably have some legacy machines, and they will never really go away if you need to support those legacy operations. And then you're going to have some percentage of your workloads that you can move into Azure. This may also change over time as you move more and more of your workloads into the cloud. And what we wanted to do is give you the message that that's okay. You don't need to worry about it. You can still manage in the same way. So we offer centralized management so that however you want to deploy, you'll be able to manage as you move through your cloud journey. So you may be asking what we're doing to make this a reality. And so this is why we built VSEC. So VSEC lets you deploy in a private cloud. It's also software, so this is the same concept we deploy in a physical box, as well as when you want to move your stuff into Microsoft Azure. And so the idea here is however your hybrid environment is built out, you're going to be able to deploy the same level of security in that hybrid environment. In addition, we have a very elastic licensing model that lets you choose how you're going to build things out. You can use a pay-as-you-grow model. You can also have a single license for many, many gateways. And you also have the idea of automatic provisioning of licenses. All of this makes it very, very flexible to build out your solution. So you may be wondering how this works. So let's take some use cases from the Azure world itself. First is that you might actually want to build out some web servers and serve up some information to the internet. You'll probably want more than one so that you can load balance them. On top of that, you're going to want to have some application servers so that the data that's proprietary to you is not available to the internet. And in this case, you would create a front-end subnet, which is the DMZ, and then a back-end subnet that holds all of your proprietary information. And you'll want to protect this from people trying to sneak in. And so the only thing missing here is the idea of security. And so now the term NS stands for north to south, or from the outside to the inside of your network. And as you can see here, it's as easy as creating a security subnet and deploying a VSEC gateway in there. And then you can just route your traffic through the security subnet to make sure that the traffic has been cleaned and is indeed safe. What's very interesting is after you've protected north to south, you may also want to do lateral traffic or east to west. And in this case, it's as simple as routing that traffic through the security subnet again. In this case, it can be the exact same gateway. And that's a very interesting way to build out your model. So what we're looking at now is the idea that maybe you also want to then route traffic from virtual machine to virtual machine. This is especially important if you're going to do what's called a zero trust model. If you don't trust the traffic, you may want to route it through the same security subnet. And this is as easy as overriding the routing table and then having the traffic go through the security subnet again. On top of that, you can consider that this single interface is very, very scalable. So all of the future subnets that you may build can use the same methodology, and you can route your traffic through the security subnet to ensure that they are safe. We talked about legacy, and you may actually want to connect to on-premise. And then all you would have to do here is connect the ExpressRoute gateway and then route that traffic through the security subnet to make sure that the traffic in both directions is safe. You may also want to share with your partners. And in this case, you would create a VNet for your partner, or they may already have a VNet. And then you'd route that traffic through the security subnet to ensure that you and your partner are both safe. So a lot of different use cases, and in all cases, it's very, very easy with the combination of Azure and Checkpoint's VSEC to secure your business. So if you're wondering how does that help you, let me try to summarize that. So the first is that Azure is going to help you buy your infrastructure very cheaply and to make it very, very easy for you to spin up and spin down and all of the scalability reasons behind cloud. Now, what we want to do is we want to do the same thing for security. So we're going to make it very easy for you to choose the security you want and enable it. So what you see on the screen here is the idea of multiple layers of protection that I was advocating. And it's a series of checkboxes. So you check off what you want and then you deploy it. And it's that easy. And if you don't need all the layers, then you choose the layers that you want to use and you can deploy those in Azure. Secondarily, as you're making your transition to the cloud, you may have some on-premise and then some stuff that's in Azure. And say you're moving databases across, you have a single policy, and this policy applies to both your on-premise as well as your cloud usage. So as you move the databases, you don't have to change the policy or the users, and you manage them both in the very same way. And that leads to operational efficiency. So this idea of unified management, so regardless of how many clouds you have, how much of your stuff is on private cloud, physical boxes, or Microsoft Azure for that matter, you're going to have unified visibility. So you'll be able to see and manage everything in the same way. You do not have to retrain your staff. So as you make this cloud journey and wherever you're going to stop along that journey in terms of the percentages of workloads that you put in various places, you're still going to have the same level of visibility. So if you're asking how you can get started, we always recommend the same thing. So we recommend that you have what we call a security checkup. And this is a way to get insights into the current security risk exposure that you have. And this will be an actuals based on your network. What we would do is we plug a device into a span port. This is not done in line, so it doesn't risk your network. And we let it run for some time and expect traffic. And what we'll do by inspecting that traffic is we can generate this report. And it begins with a high-level overview, and this is something you can show to the board or your senior management. At a glance, you can take a look at what's here: bots, malware, vulnerabilities, data loss, things like risky applications, and activities that are being done in the cloud. And the details will have an executive summary as well as key findings. We'll also include concepts like the best practice for architecting your security, and this will help you identify weak points and prioritize the gaps that you need to improve, as well as concepts for detailed technology recommendations around solution that might help you. So this is free advice we provide. It is vendor agnostic. And so I actually recommend our biggest customers do this quarterly so that as you build a security strategy, you can then measure your progress towards that strategy. Okay, that's everything from me. As you can see, my phone number, my email address are here. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to me. If there's nothing else, I really appreciate your time. Let's now move on to the Q&A section.